Okay, welcome back, everyone. This is our second segment of Overcoming Performance Anxiety and Stage Fright. Up first, on the first segment, we had Dr. Lamon Lawhorn, and today, or right now, I'm pleased to have with us Mr. Douglas. Mr. Douglas, thank you for joining us today on this episode.
Thanks for having
And
me.
thank you. Could you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I am a 25-year educator, both high school and elementary school, and been blessed to uh, been in a few circles. Chicago native, and spent all of my time, basically the 24 years teaching in Chicago. I currently reside in the great city of Las Vegas, so it's been great. I'm a product of HBCU, Florida A&M, Chicago State University, and got my master's degree from Vandercook College of Music. And on the flip side of that, when I'm not being in education and trying to give our kids a compass, I'm a musician. And I've been blessed to have played with some of the likes of, I'm currently the drummer for Barry Manilow, and that's in my fourth year. And again, playing with some of the likes of, man, some of the greats, Red Rodney, Joe Henderson, some of the late greats, and all styles and genres. And so it's been a blessing, both as an educator as well as a musician, just having a good time and enjoying life and doing what I love to do.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Such a wonderful resume. And it's exciting that you've been able to experience both the educational side of things, but also you've had a great career as a performer as well. And it's so excited that you're currently Barry Manilow's drummer. I think that's so cool. I remember the first time I met you, and Charles Connor introduced us and said, "Hey, yeah, have you met Barry Manilow's drummer?" I'm like, "Really?" And so when I got a chance to meet you in person, it was just so great, to be able to interact with you and to now call you my friend and colleague. So thank
Oh,
you,
absolutely.
for sharing that with us. The first question is, in your performance career, whether it was as a student in college or whether it's been performing professionally, have you ever dealt with or experienced performance anxiety or stage fright? And if so, describe for us your experience and what you did to overcome it or manage it.
Look, I was the biggest coward ever, and really it started in church. I mean, I had to really buckle down with that because, um, you know, they said, well, hey, I was a little kid, and he said, why don't you come up and play drums? Why don't you come up and play drums? The little shorty in church coming up and trying to keep a beat. And I was so nervous. And what I had to do, and my band director, my high school band director, David Ings, he used to always say, hey, continue to perform in front of like your family, get you a support group, just keep performing. And what I end up doing is, like, on those special holidays, Christmas, Thanksgiving, I'll I'll never forget. I would start doing, like, little concerts. I'll never forget. I was maybe 8 years old, and I just got a brand new drum set for Christmas. And me and my sister, she was the singer and I was the drummer, and all the family came down to see me perform. And next thing you know, I busted a head on the drum. It was like the most traumatic thing ever. I was like, oh no, no. But, so it was like, just trying to get through that. But what I try to do when, I'm talking with students and, other younger musicians, I said, just perform in front of your family, and obviously your practice ethic, the more you practice, that helps to the confidence level, and so when you get past that piece and you perform in front of, small groups, and all of a sudden you performing in front of large groups, you just kind of take a deep breath and relax, and say, hey, I got this. And if you have people that out in front of you, and or if there's nobody out there, you find a spot where you can just say, hey, I'm gonna look at that, and you just go for it. But basically, I just started performing concerts and in front of my parents and in front of my sisters, and the more you get out to perform, those things tend to go away. And, as you start developing, you become more, just professional, and you performing in these arenas. That was the thing. I kid you not. Um, the first arena that I did with Barry, I was scared. I was like, oh my God, here we go. Because we're in Mexico, man, and it's like 35,000 people. And it's not like in a smaller theater sometimes where he goes to do his thing. It's like you come in, you can just feel the air, the curtains up and up, and you just see a sea of people, and it's like, oh my God, oh my God, don't miss the beginning, But again, what I do is I pumped myself up like, okay, y'all, here we go. So I'm talking to everybody, and everybody looking like, man, you pumped. Like, dude, I'm ready to go. Let's go. So, and then that too, talking to yourself and say, hey, you got this, encourage yourself and finding that spot and just, focus on the gig. So it's kind of, performing in front of people and focusing on one thing that's out there. If you have to look out there, and say, hey, that's what I'm focused on, is just be that piece. And just take a deep breath and encourage yourself. You got it.
Indeed, indeed. I really like what you said about getting a support group. I remember, even on a college level, as a college band director, I used to tell people, play in front of your friends, go gigging around campus,
Yes.
dance in front of your friends, even something as simple as test taking and test anxiety. Practice those test questions with your friends. Get a support group to help quiz you up.
Oh,
Same
yeah.
thing with music. If you're getting ready for a recital or something, have your friends listen to you and critique you, tell you what they like,
Absolutely.
tell you what they
Absolutely.
didn't like, tell you what they felt you did well, what you should work on. And a lot of times your friends can tell you and make you aware of things that unconsciously you didn't know you were doing, like, why are you rocking back and forth like that, or why are you standing to the
Hey,
side like
I
that,
had that problem. I
mm-hmm.
had that problem. I was a rocker, man.
Mm-hmm.
When I started rocking, and it's like you mentioned, you're doing your musical juries and things like that, and so people are coming in with a different ear, different
Mm-hmm.
perspective. So absolutely.
Right, you get the rock in there. Your rock has one beat, and your music has a totally different tempo, two different tempos going on. But very, very good information. And I also like what you said about encouraging yourself.
Yes.
Sometimes you have to give yourself that pep talk, that extra encouragement, or just sit there and meditate. Do a 1-minute meditation, clear your mind from everything from having to rush and find a parking spot before the gig to making sure
Yeah.
that your outfit fits right, or that it was ironed and properly ready. Anything that could have caused you stress before, just kind of take a deep breath, like you said, and then just go at it. But encourage yourself, and don't be afraid to speak positivity, about yourself and about your performance. Don't start it thinking about the mistakes you're going to make.
Yeah.
Start it thinking about how great you're going to do.
That's right. That's right.
Indeed.
And the people that are around you, you know, if you're there on a gig, then I'm sure they're supporting you. At least I
Mm-hmm.
would hope so, that they're supporting you, and especially when I mean, I took this gig with Barry, and he's had his drummer prior to me for 20 years,
Mm-hmm.
and so most of the musicians have been there 20 years or longer.
Right.
So it's like, man, everybody came in with the support group, and just asking questions when you're walking into a situation. As you mentioned, anything that you can do to help your setup, help your performance. People that, if you're performing with a group, like I said, ask those questions and see what their perspective is, whatever's going to give you more tools in that box.
Sounds good indeed. Now, how often do you perform nowadays? I know you perform with Barry, but I also know you're teaching. How often would you say you're gigging, within like a month or a couple of month period, or how often a year do you feel that you go out and perform?
Well, when it's not COVID, it's pretty it's pretty regularly. I'm
Mhm.
usually twice a week. I mean, well, twice a month with Barry, and then other gigs. So when I was back at home in Chicago, I was really outperforming about maybe 4 days a week, outside of just with Barry, and then some of the other gigs and the church. So it was a pretty busy schedule.
Right. Indeed, indeed. Now, what advice would you give to music majors or current performers to help them identify triggers of performance anxiety and stage fright, and how to overcome it? And specifically, talk to if there's ever been a time in your performance where you've actually had to stop and like come to a dead stop and start over. And like, what are some things they can do to identify when they may be stressed to the point that they're anxious, and how do they deal with that?
One thing that I will say is that, you know, as directors, we tend, and this might have been an old way of just the old school teaching, where, you know, people just say, you know, don't make mistakes, don't make mistakes. But the recovery is probably greater. You know what I'm saying? We can prepare, anything can happen where you can just be thrown off. But one of the things as a professional, our job is the recovery, because we're hired, we know the gig, we can play the gig. But if something happens, how well do you respond? And there's a line in one of my favorite movies, it's called The Firm. Tom Cruise said to no, it wasn't The Firm, it was uh, A Few Good Men. He told his litigation team that says, you have to look and act as though you knew that if something was going to happen, you knew it was going to happen. And, you know, I tend to use that in certain perspectives. Just as a performer, I can be as prepared in my circle as I can be, but some things that are out of the circle may impact what's going on. So we have to just, you know, keep a cool head and just try to keep it going. Um, that's basically from a performance standpoint. Now, if I'm talking to a young music educator, one of the things that I would encourage is that, you know, just make sure that you have as much knowledge about what it is that you're doing. If you're getting ready to go into a jury, you know, it's okay to take it one section at a time, one section at a time. You know, put the time in, and it's okay to just say, okay, I'm going to take a break here, but try to keep it regimented. And I'll never forget, I was working on my master's, and I was taking percussion, and Kevin Leppard, a masterful percussion teacher, he's taught me how to really dissect my schedule, because things were so tight. And he said, well, if you got a 30-minute lunch, do you really need 30 minutes to eat? You know, take out maybe 15, you know, and try to really focus on it. Make your practice, make your thought process about what you're doing and what you're preparing for. And so it was great. It was great. So again, just really kind of dissecting the sections that you're working for and whatever's going to make you comfortable, you know? And I think the other part of your question was, wait a minute, you had, so that was the performance piece, the music education. There was a third part of the question.
What happens if you have to stop completely in a piece? You're
Oh,
on stage, you've practiced well, you get on stage, and something happens. Is it okay to stop? You know, what happens if you stop or just completely draw a blank?
if you completely draw a blank, you know, just again, take a deep breath, you know, and of course, I've done musicals from The Color Purple and Ain't Too Proud, you know, all the big musicals in Chicago, Broadway in Chicago, Ain't Misbehaving, those kind of things. And of course, you know, there's never really been a situation where you had to stop. But I do recall one where, you know, there was something going on in the pit and we had to stop. And it was like, you know, because it's like, oh my God, what happens? But, you know, you just pick up where you left off and you keep going. You keep going. You know, you again take a deep breath and keep going. And shoot, I can't believe I forgot this. My junior recital. Oh my God. Again, just kind of working through some of that stage fright bit. Um, you know, I was working on my malice and working through it. And then I started concentrating too much. Mm. I left the muscle memory. I left the muscle memory and got more into the psyche of it. Because, you know, the muscle memory is just, okay, I got it. And so now I'm in my head and I just stopped and I was like, oh my God. So the accompanist stopped and I was like, okay, well, here we go. So again, that deep breath. So just trying to stay as relaxed as you can, because you already know what to do. You already got it.
Indeed, and I know Dr. Lawhorn mentioned too in our segment that a lot of the times, you know, he's a percussionist as well. He mentioned that he was always advised, hey, improv. You know, if there's a section you're messing up on, you know your piece. Your audience may not know your piece, but sometimes it's okay to improv. You know,
Yeah,
until you get your mind back, get your mind on track, play the same passage over and over until it comes back to your mind what's supposed to happen next. And
right.
he's like, it goes with what you're saying about, you have to act like you knew it was going to happen, like it was a part of the performance,
That's
like it was
exactly
supposed
right.
to happen that way. And I really think, that's some sound advice that you gave, about breathing and stopping and keep going. It's not the end of the world if you have to stop. It's not the end of the world if you make a mistake. But you said the most important thing is about the recovery, and
Yes,
being professional. That's what sets us apart. Is not what mistake you made or how bad the mistake was. Is okay. We did it. How are you going to move on now? How are you going to get back up when you fall? So
right.
definitely. Thank you so much. Is there anything else you wish to share for the greater good of our music majors or our current music educators or professionals or those who may want to have an experience like you have, like they're trying to prepare for an audition for a recording artist or they're trying to prepare for a Broadway audition? What advice can you give them as it relates to preparation, performance anxiety, and stage fright?
Well, one of the things that I would say, just as an encouragement to all of the young musicians and young educators, be as prepared as you can. You know, if you were invited to go into an audition or you signed up to an audition, you bring your personality to it. You know, bring your personality to it. The only person that you can be is you. You know, um, when I was auditioning for The Color Purple, it was quite a few drummers that went in. And one of the things that the music director said, you know what, you have a great personality, a great personality. And it reflected back even to, um, I, I was with the All-American College Band down at Disney in 93. And Dr. Ron McCurdy, man, I love the guy. He told me even then, he said, look, you may not have played all of the right notes, but you were confident and you had the right spirit. You know, you came as prepared. It felt like you was prepared, you know, and sometimes you just have to go in as prepared as you know how and make it kind of your sermon, just like you mentioned, you know, with improvisation and just giving it the best, giving it your best, and be who you are. And you know, in terms of you are working into a circle where you are encouraging other people, you're getting ready to walk into a circle where you're teaching students and you are giving students a compass. You're giving them that
Mhm.
direction. You know, let them see you. You know, not a mannequin,
Right. Indeed.
not a
That's
mannequin.
right. I definitely agree. Indeed, indeed. Well, thank you so much, Mr. Douglas, for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. We have several more interviews to come and more great tips for music majors and music professionals dealing with overcoming anxiety and stage fright. Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having me.